Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
We begin tonight in Corning. Governor Cuomo's 10-person limit on gatherings was signed into law in November, but questions remained on how or if it would be enforced. Matt Kleindinst is in Corning with a look at if anyone got in trouble this Thanksgiving.
Good evening. The governor's indoor gathering limit was in full swing for Thanksgiving, but it appears that no New Yorker received a ticket for large gatherings. Governor Cuomo stated that New York did not issue fines for violating gathering limits. The governor issued an executive order placing a 10-person cap on private indoor gatherings leading up to Thanksgiving. While no fines were issued, Cuomo didn't clarify whether or not police broke up any gatherings without handing out tickets. Several state sheriffs, including the Steuben County Sheriff, previously announced objections to enforcing the executive order. I reached out to several local police departments about the issue of gathering limits over the holiday, but got no response. Cuomo is now turning his focus to public education about limiting indoor gatherings as we head into winter. Reporting from Corning, Matt Kleindinst, Big Fox WYDC.
COVID-19 vaccines are expected to begin rolling out to Americans later this month, but they likely won't be widely available until 2021. In the meantime, the deadly virus continues to spread at record-setting rates. John Lawrence reports.
The United States surpassed 100,000 COVID-19 hospitalizations Wednesday, the highest since the pandemic began.
People from all walks of life, all ages, are getting afflicted by COVID-19.
7 of the 8 members of Sophia Burke's New Jersey household contracted the coronavirus.
My father died last Tuesday on a ventilator. My mother is home with oxygen, unable to breathe on her own.
Wednesday also saw 3,157 deaths, the highest daily number reported according to Johns Hopkins University.
It is incredibly challenging to be holding the hand of a patient when they take their very last breath because their loved ones can't be with them, and then having to call their loved ones after to tell them they won't be coming home.
Despite progress on the vaccine front, health officials say the next few months will be grim.
December and January and February are going to be rough times. I actually believe they're going to be the most difficult time in the public health history of this nation.
Before it's all said and done, this is going to be basically the bloodiest war this country has ever fought.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Health officials say everyone who gets the COVID-19 vaccine will be issued a vaccination card to keep in their wallet. The Department of Defense released the first images of vaccination kits on Wednesday. The vaccination cards will be used as a record of who's had one and when their next dose is due. Vaccination clinics will also be reporting to their state immunization registries what vaccine was given, and every dose administered will be reported to the CDC. Delta is launching a contact tracing program. The program is the first in the airline industry for travelers returning to the U.S. If there is someone diagnosed with COVID on your flight, the CDC can get in touch with you. Passengers will need to provide their full name, email address in the U.S., and primary and secondary phone numbers. Customers can voluntarily opt in through Delta loyalty programs. Delta is also blocking out the middle seat on flights until March of next year. New York is trying to slow the spread of the coronavirus. Long Island is ramping up testing and trying to focus on contact tracing. But there are reports of another potential super spreader event involving hundreds of people. Jennifer McMorgan reports.
500 partygoers invited to this sprawling estate in Brookhaven. Police called after midnight Monday as 911 calls from worried neighbors flooded in, including from the property owner who had rented his Castle Lake home.
We were able to break this party up when a lot of people were still in their cars, so we reduced their opportunity to expose themselves to each other. We're averted a real potential super spreader event.
We're not going to allow people to skirt the COVID-19 public health rules by simply renting a home.
Police say the Airbnb renter is from New Jersey and once identified would be criminally prosecuted for violating public health laws and faces civil fines up to $15,000. This comes as Suffolk health officials reveal nearly 50% of those testing positive are refusing to cooperate with COVID tracing teams, hanging up or not answering the phone.
Overall, it's very irresponsible to not be cooperating.
They're afraid to lose their jobs.
Especially with my personal information. Not in these days.
I understand why, but it's very selfish. You have to save lives.
It's not about blaming or shaming. It's about keeping our numbers and our spread as low as we possibly can.
Are the tracers feeling overwhelmed?
We went from 30 or 40 cases a day, and now we're up to 400 or 500 cases a day. So the workload has certainly increased.
Along with a trust crisis over misinformation and privacy fears as COVID continues to spread.
The government reports 712,000 new claims for unemployment benefits were filed the week of Thanksgiving. That's on a seasonally adjusted basis. More than 288,000 workers filed for benefits under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, which gives aid for workers like the self-employed and contractors. Continued jobless claims stood at 5.5 million, down from 6.1 million the previous week. While Wall Street thrives, the new jobless numbers lay bare the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic is having on Main Street. Many small businesses are on the brink of shutting their doors. Among them, a family-owned restaurant that's been a fixture in Colorado for decades. Lucy Kavanagh has their story.
It's a Chavez family holiday tradition. For nearly 3 decades, the owners of the Sunset Inn in Pueblo, Colorado, have raised funds to buy gifts for homeless children.
Most of these kids, and if I don't do Christmas for them, they're not going to have nothing.
But now their Christmas plans are up in the air. 3 generations work at the Sunset Inn.
It's kind of like the pillar of our whole family.
But this bar and grill is one of countless businesses now crippled by COVID-19. Skyrocketing cases forced Pueblo County to ban indoor dining last month. The restaurant now empty, more than half their employees laid off, takeout orders barely making ends meet.
What's your biggest fear when it comes to the Sunset Inn?
Losing what we built all these years, having to fear somebody else has it after we walk away and us not being here anymore. That's, sorry. That's my most fear.
For over 15 years, the Sunset Inn was a favorite pub in Pueblo. But then in 1996, Chuck Chavez added sloppers to the menu.
Their menu rising to national fame after being featured in an episode of the Travel Channel's Food Wars.
The Sunset, to me, is my whole family, our whole life.
Their troubles began when the pandemic hit in March and Colorado effectively went into lockdown.
We are resorting to this measure, this extreme measure, at this time to make sure that people know that they need to stay in their homes.
The Sunset stayed shut for 3 months. Then in October, disaster struck.
An outbreak and possible community exposure to COVID-19 at the Sunset Inn.
11 family members infected with COVID.
We wiped everything down, we complied with everything, and we still ended up getting it.
All recovered, but the business is still struggling. Before the pandemic, the family says the inn could pull $5,000 on a good day. Now they're lucky to make $400. Emergency relief funding helped them stay afloat, but barely. And if things don't change, they say the inn may have to shut its doors in 3 months. New COVID restrictions imposed last week on Colorado's hardest-hit counties, including Pueblo, could make a return to normal a long way off.
How has the hardship affected you?
Not sleeping at night, my hair is turning gray, constantly worrying about if we can pay the bills.
A fear echoed by the family and thousands of small business owners across the nation.
My mom and dad are the hardest working people I know, and it's just emotional to know that we don't know what could happen, if it was to continue like this.
Census officials have discovered data issues that could delay the completion of the census. That's according to a new set of internal census documents that House Democrats shared Wednesday. The issues are said to include, quote, high complexity problems that could lead to a miscount. This could push back a key tally until February. after Joe Biden is sworn in as president. That delay would block the Trump administration's effort to exclude undocumented immigrants when dividing seats in the House of Representatives. Watkins Glen International announced its full lineup for the 2021 season. For the first time, the legendary racetrack is set to host all 3 NASCAR circuits in the same weekend. That's taking place the first weekend of August. The Glen is also hosting the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in late June. The track will also host the Finger Lakes Wine Festival in July, as well as the Beer Festival in late October. You can visit theglen.com to see the full schedule. Tickets go on sale starting on December 17th. A New York centenarian lived through the 1918 flu, and now she's beaten coronavirus twice. Meet 102-year-old Angelina Friedman, a survivor in every sense of the word. Besides the 1918 flu pandemic, she's survived sepsis, internal bleeding, and cancer. In April, Friedman survived the coronavirus, and according to her daughter, Friedman survived a second coronavirus diagnosis this fall. Friedman is now back in her regular room at North Westchester Restorative Therapy and Nursing Center. While she has lost most of her hearing and her vision is poor, Friedman is still celebrating life. Still ahead tonight, a new study suggests the coronavirus could have been circulating around the country earlier than previously thought.
On January 21st is when we had the first confirmed patient with COVID in this country. And even then, the sense was, did we really catch the very first patient?
When researchers now believe COVID-19 could reach the U.S. Coming up.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Tarr. Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Kim Walker with your weather update. I hope you appreciate the warmer weather that we had today. Temperatures overall were about 5 to 10 degrees warmer than it was yesterday. But unfortunately, we're going to be trending downward for the upcoming days with a low pressure system that will be approaching our area. Tomorrow, temperatures will start off near freezing, warming up to around 35 degrees at 7. It looks like we only bump those temperatures up into the mid to upper 40s, and that's because we're going to see a lot of clouds, and there's also the possibility of showers and even some snow. So this low pressure system is in the southeast right now. By tomorrow night, it will make its way into the Delmarva area and then eventually off the coast just to our east by Saturday. We are going to remain on the east or the west side of it, which means we're going to be on the colder side over the weekend, and so those temperatures will be diving down for your Saturday and Sunday. So here's a look at what will happen on Saturday. So that low pressure system will be to our east and southeast. Winds will start to pick up, and because colder air will start to come in, some of this precipitation will be switching over to snow. How much are we expecting? Anywhere between 1 to 3 inches will be possible over to our east, closer to that low. Some places could pick up about a foot to a foot and a half in New Hampshire and Vermont. So our future radar is showing not a lot going on at midnight, but clouds will start to thicken up by 7 o'clock in the morning. A few isolated snow showers will be possible. And then around lunchtime, some of that will be switching over to rain as temperatures do warm up into the 40s. And we are expecting a wintry mix around 6 o'clock with rain and snow possible. But our chances of snow will start to increase as we make our way into your Saturday. A dreary day with off and on snow showers across our area through much of your Saturday. So it looks like it's going to be a dreary weekend. It's going to be cold though. Temperatures only around 39 degrees for the afternoon high. It gets even colder on Sunday. Lots of clouds sticking around. Our high barely above freezing at 33 degrees. Staying with that cold air through early next week. Clouds will stick around as well. We could see a little bit more sunshine by Tuesday, but the good news is by the middle of next week, Temperatures will be a little bit closer to normal with highs in the low to mid 40s. Overnight lows for the next 7 days will be in the 20s and 30s. So we have several cold mornings on tap.
The first known case of COVID-19 in the United States was reported in late January. But a new study suggests that the coronavirus may have been circulating around the country much earlier than thought. Mandy Gaither has more in today's Health Minute.
When did COVID-19 first come into the U.S.? It's a question being asked once again.
On January 21st is when we had the first confirmed patient with COVID in this country. And even then, the sense was, did we really catch the very first patient?
A new study published in the journal Clinical Infectious Diseases suggests that was not the first U.S. case. Scientists at the CDC analyzed almost 7,400 blood donations collected in 9 states by the American Red Cross from mid-December 2019 through mid-January 2020. Of the samples tested, more than 100 were found to have novel coronavirus reactive antibodies, including ones collected from California, Oregon, and Washington from December 13th through December 16th, 2019. Those antibodies may appear from past infections with the virus that causes COVID-19, leading the study's authors to believe there may have been COVID infections in the U.S. in mid-December of last year.
This is a highly contagious virus that almost from the beginning, when it started to transmit among humans in China, it was spreading around the world. An outbreak anywhere is an outbreak everywhere. I think that's what this reminds us of.
2 North Carolina co-workers have died from COVID just hours apart. They were both healthcare workers at a nursing home that is experiencing an outbreak. Dave Faraday reports.
And I just think that's sad when Papa gave so much of his life to them.
Karen Isbell fought back tears as she shared photos of her father, Paul Glass, who worked as a CNA for 42 years here at the Bryan Center, Viewmont. Isbell says her father, who was 80 years old, died after contracting COVID-19. Nearly 24 residents and 14 other workers here have tested positive for the virus.
The reason we wanted him to quit was because we were afraid that that would be what would happen, because you know how prevalent it is in nursing homes. So it broke our hearts.
Just 24 hours after Paul Glass died, Carla Wilson, a nurse at the Bryan Center, who was also hospitalized with COVID-19, died as well. The Bryan Center released this statement saying, in part, these individuals were hardworking, diligent, and loyal staff who worked every day to provide quality care to the residents we have the privilege to serve. Center staff will certainly miss their bright faces and enthusiastic attitudes. Former co-workers who are organizing the candlelight vigils say the two will be deeply missed.
Paul, he always would say, how are you? He always cared about how other people were.
They're so needed. They were just so needed because they care so much. They have such caring spirits.
Do you take lots of photos of your pets? Well, one photographer does it for a living, and this year he's doing it for charity. Lauren Maxwell reports.
So I want to put Neil up here. Yeah. And I'm going to make a curious noise to get Neil's attention.
There's no doubt David Jensen has a special connection with animals.
Watch me. Good job.
For more than 30 years, he's been taking remarkable portraits of people and their pets.
I'm able to capture that relationship with my camera, and there's just nothing like it for me.
All this week, Jensen is offering mini outdoor photo shoots.
And here I go.
He's donating his services to raise money for a local nonprofit called Paws at the Table. It provides pet food and supplies for people who are struggling financially. There you are! It's a favorite charity for Carrie Campbell, who's brought her dog Newton by today.
He's so happy.
Filled with energy, it's hard to believe this 5-year-old French bulldog was recently diagnosed with cancer.
It's not a very good prognosis. We may have 6 months, it may be less, it may be more, but we're just enjoying every moment we have.
Which is why this photo session is extra special.
Newton's quite animated.
And when Newton momentarily settles...
1, 2, and 3. Got it.
The photos come out fine.
Oh, he's so beautiful.
The Better Business Bureau is warning of a spike in online pet scams during the pandemic. And to be on guard, if you're considering buying a pet over the holidays, scammers ask for payments through apps such as Cash App and Zelle and through gift cards. The Better Business Bureau recommends seeing the pet in person before paying any money. You can do it by video call, and scammers are unlikely to go along with it. Do a reverse image search of the pet photo and search for a distinctive phrase in the pet description. Do some research and find out the fair price for the breed you want, and consider adopting from a local animal shelter instead. Healthcare workers and first responders need a pick-me-up. You can now get free coffee at Starbucks. To show appreciation for frontline workers, Starbucks is offering a free tall brewed coffee, hot or iced, through the end of the year. Starbucks says the list of those eligible for the freebie is pretty extensive. It includes doctors, nurses, pharmacists, dispatchers, firefighters, paramedics, police officers, dentists, mental health care workers, active duty military, public health care workers, and any hospital staff. You just have to show your ID. A scrapyard is offering the chance to take out 2020 frustrations with a tank. Jeremy Roth has more in today's Take a Look at This.
A UK scrapyard is offering a unique prescription for 2020 frustrations: blowing up a car. It's called the Rage Yard, and it offers participants a chance to shoot, blow up, and otherwise destroy cars destined for the scrap heap. They say the car-crunching chaos offers much-needed catharsis in what's been a very frustrating year. There's even a tank, sweet, merciful Magoo, a tank for those who are really fed up. Due to extremely limited space, the company is taking ballot-style booking requests. Winners will be drawn and offered a chance to bid this horrible, horrible year farewell with a big bad bang. Need more stress relief? How about a relaxing dip in what's believed to be the world's deepest pool? Recently opened in Poland, Deep Spot lives up to its name. Filled with roughly 20 times the amount of water in a standard-sized pool, it measures nearly 150 feet at its deepest point, a simulated blue hole. But this pool ain't for cannonballing and Marco Poloing. It's intended as a training facility for divers who can practice by exploring a simulated shipwreck and underwater caves. The pool even has an underwater spectator tunnel and will soon have a hotel with deep blue views. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. It's that time of year when everyone is looking for the perfect Christmas tree. Well, buying a Christmas tree can be a stretch for some families who are struggling in tough economic times. But one business in New Mexico is trying to spread holiday cheer using the pay-what-you-can approach. The tree farm owner says he is planning on selling more than 40 Christmas trees under this model. All of the money they raise will go to their local small businesses struggling through the pandemic. The owner says it's a little pick-me-up to help New Mexico families and businesses get through these trying times. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a good night. Hope to see you back here tomorrow.